Now Israel has done every one of those things, but times 60. So don't tell me that Israel is more moral. I would argue they are more immoral. And especially when you're Goliath, you have a responsibility to tread a little bit more carefully. And Israel has done the exact opposite.
In today's video, Cenk Uygur completely dismantles Dr. Phil in a heated debate over the Israel-Palestine conflict. And honestly, it's not even close. Dr. Phil tries to hold the line, but Cenk hits him with history, context, and hard facts that expose how weak the usual talking points sound under pressure. Whether you agree with Cenk or not, this exchange shows just how unprepared Dr. Phil was for a real conversation about the Middle East. Let's watch how Cenk Uygur destroys Dr. Phil's arguments clip by clip, and I'll give you my take.
Nobody ever talks about the whole context of the situation. So the reality is that 5.5 million Palestinians have been occupied by Israel for 57 long years. And so no one would tolerate being occupied at all, let alone for 57 years. And the analogy I often use is Texas. So if somebody came and occupied Texas, do you think Texas might fight back? Do you think the citizens might fight back? And especially if you took away any opportunity to do it in a legitimate way, do you think maybe an insurgency would rise that others would call terrorism, right? So now that doesn't justify the terrorism, but it just explains to you how we got here. So 57 years, so then Hamas does something terrible in return, okay? And then Israel goes, oh, you want to see terrible? We'll show you terrible, and levels the whole place. So, but what Israel doesn't understand is that they are Goliath. For all of Jewish history, they have been David, and they have been abused, and they have been traumatized, and I don't know people that have suffered more, right? But they're misunderstanding the current situation. They're no longer David. They're Goliath, plus they've got even bigger Goliath behind them. And they're beating up on these folks when they got to let them go.
Okay, but you just said a really important word. You just said but.
Mm-hmm.
You just said for all of this time, they have been David. But. That means forget everything I just said. I'm going to now tell you what I really mean.
No, it doesn't.
Now they're Goliath.
No, it just means the situation has changed.
It has changed. I'm saying you can't forget all of that time. And I don't want to get into a yeah, but. The situation is complex, and the Palestinians have been offered peace accords and all different kinds of opportunities to change this occupation circumstance time and time and time again. We can go back and forth about that. My point is that there is no moral equivalent to what happened on October 7th.
I actually totally disagree. I think what Israel has done since is far, far worse, and it's empirical. So they've killed 62,000 now. Hamas killed 1,200. My heart breaks for that 1,200. There was kids in there. There was terrible things that were done in there. Now Israel has done every one of those things, but times 60. So don't tell me that Israel is more moral. I would argue they are more immoral. And especially when you're Goliath, you have a responsibility to tread a little bit more carefully. And Israel has done the exact opposite. And remember, they're the ones who started it by occupying them in the first place. There's not a single Texan that would ever tolerate what Israel has done to the Palestinians.
There are two big problems with what Dr. Phil is saying here. First, he refuses to acknowledge that Israel is no longer the underdog, and Cenk Uygur calls that out. This isn't a fair fight. One side controls the land, the air, the borders, the power, and the other side has none of that. Second, Dr. Phil acts like this all started on October 7th, and Cenk won't let that slide. You can't ignore 57 years of military occupation and then be shocked when people fight back. That doesn't justify what Hamas did, but it explains why it happened. Cenk compares it to the US after 9/11, and he's right. We were attacked, but we responded by killing hundreds of thousands. That didn't make us morally superior. It made things worse. Dr. Phil doesn't have a real answer. He just repeats the same line, but they attacked us. Meanwhile, Cenk is asking the real question. How does this end? That's what makes this part of the debate so important.
We could go over the number of times that Israel has been attacked, and when you say that they have done the same or worse, I don't know of an aggressor that has gone to the lengths that Israel has gone to, dropping leaflets, warning people, get out of this area, get out of this area, get out of this area, because we're coming after the aggressors. To me, they have gone to extreme lengths to try and protect civilian life. But if you have people that come across and assassinate women, children, and infants in their cribs, and then run back and hide in populous areas, schools, hospitals, and tunnels, and say, well, I'm now in a neighborhood, so you can't come after me, that's violating the rules of war. That's violating every possible measure of warfare that you can possibly do. You can't do that and expect, okay, so I get away with it. That's not going to happen.
Okay, so you're turning me back into the warrior, Cenk. Okay, so let me try to handle it a different way. Can I get you to see it from the other perspective? Okay, so I hear what you're saying about the Israeli perspective. Well, these guys hit me. What do you want me to do? And I have a literal answer to that. I was asked, on October 8th or whenever I went on the first show afterwards, I said, yeah, you should use special forces like we did to get bin Laden. Is it riskier? Of course it is. But as Goliath, you have a responsibility, but you're still going after them. So there are real ways you could do military, you could do economic, you could do diplomatic. Israel has infinite power over the Palestinians. They control their lives completely and utterly. They could kill them at any moment, and they do. And the things that you described, they don't do that anymore at all. They're using an AI program called Where's Daddy? They have no idea if it's the right guy, but they wait till he gets home so that they kill his family with him. It's disgusting and deeply immoral. I think they're a terrorist state, and I think they do terrorism far worse than anything I've seen from the Palestinians. Now, having said all that, okay, so I'm a bad guy. If you're from Israel's perspective, you go, I don't like that. He's saying mean things about us, and we got every right to occupy these people and keep them as our slaves for 57 long, brutal years, and I'll do it for 500 more years because I'm superior to them. That's how I view Israel. And so I'm not a friend. I'm not like in the sense of what they're doing today. My God, they do a peace deal. I love Israel. Let's go together. And I want it to be beautiful, safe haven for Jews. They deserve it, etc. But can I get you to see the Palestinian perspective? How long do you want me to be occupied? How long do you want me to live under the thumb of a different people? How long would you accept that? What would you do that was different? And they've tried everything. They've gone to the UN, just like Israel did, rebuffed. They've tried diplomacy, rebuffed. They try everything, rebuffed, because Israel has infinite power because it controls America.
I can look at it from Palestinians' point of view, and I hate the loss of life in Palestine. I absolutely hate the loss of life in Palestine. I think when Hamas made the attack they did on October 7th, they put a sequence of events into play that they knew was going to happen. They don't value life, they value death. And I think they put all of those people in harm's way. They knew what they were doing when they did it. They're responsible for what's happening in Gaza Strip when they did what they did. They knew what was going to happen when they did it. So it's happening. And now this peace accord, will it hold? Netanyahu is, I suppose, skeptical of it when you're dealing with people in power whose prime directive is you be dead. It's hard to negotiate with people who are oriented to wipe you off the face of the earth. From the river to the sea, you can spin that any way you want, but that is what it is.
It's so hard not to get frustrated. I'm trying to make peace here, but Dr. Phil, look, last things on this. Number one, Netanyahu has said from the river to the sea. So don't tell me that you don't like from the river to the sea when your prime minister says it. Number two, he's actually doing river to the sea, and they're going to take Gaza, and they're going to try to take the West Bank. Number three, they've now killed 60 times the number of civilians. So how could killing 60 times the number of civilians be more morally correct than killing one time? It just doesn't make any sense. But America's only looking at it from the Israeli perspective. Oh my God, what would you do if you were attacked? Okay, but I'm asking you, what would you do if another race, country, religion, government was oppressing you for 57 years. They have to go to checkpoints. They get humiliated at every checkpoint. They have no rights at all. The settlers have killed 1,000 people in the West Bank. Nothing to do with the Gaza Strip, nothing to do with Hamas. Hamas is not in charge of the West Bank. They kill, oppress, humiliate, and then they go, I can't believe you're mad about it. Oh my God, I can't give you freedom because you don't like Israel. How were they supposed to like Israel? At what point would they have liked Israel?
What really frustrates me is how easily the conversation gets reduced to good guys versus bad guys. Cenk Uygur tries to bring context, occupation, power, decades of control, and Dr. Phil just sidesteps it. You can't talk about peace if you ignore the conditions people are living under. You can't say they hate us and then pretend there's no reason behind it. That's not honest and it's not helpful. In the end, Cenk is asking the right question. How long should people be expected to live without rights, without freedom, without a future? And if you're still defending the status quo after hearing that, maybe you're not actually for peace. You're just for control. That's my take. Let me know what you think in the comments. I actually want to hear where you stand on this. If you found this breakdown helpful, hit like, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.